So we are on chapter 6, Midat HaZrizut. Midat HaZrizut, as you remember, we talked about that it is an aspect of that we are working to perfect the mitzvahs of Aseh, that the prescriptive mitzvahs. Previously, we spoke about mitzvahs lo taseh, the prohibitive. Now we are in the section of Mesilat Yesharim, where we are discussing, where we're learning about how we should behave towards the prescriptive mitzvahs, the things that we have to do. And we spoke about a little bit about this last time, that really the reason we need quickness in performing the mitzvahs has to do with human nature. Because human nature is heavy. And it's very hard to understand because we don't really use these terms of heavy and light and wet and dry, but you have to look at, in a sense, of our body is sort of pulling us down. Right? It kind of enjoys being stative in one sort of state as opposed to transitive, moving from one state to another. It's very happy sitting, very happy lying down. If it has to stand, then it should lean, right? If it has to walk, then okay, but a certain pace, not too slow, not too fast. As we have, our body sends us messages of how it likes. And that is sort of an example of our nature. That the Ramchal says that our teva ha'adam kaved me'ud, that we have a very heavy nature. What does that mean in practicality? We're lazy. We don't want to do anything unless we have to. And when it comes to mitzvahs, it becomes a very, very serious problem. Why? Because our inclination, our evil inclination, uses an aspect of our nature, this laziness, against us. So that instead of jumping up and doing the mitzvah when it comes, we sort of like, well, we'll do it a little later. Why do we have to do it today? It's like when we tell the kids, go wash the dishes. Why me? First thing, it's why me. And then you explain to them why it is their turn. Why now? Right? They will give you all sorts. You remember this when you were given chores to do. It's like, why me? No, you always did your chores?
No, never.
See? I remember when we had a lemon tree. And every time we had to, like every few months, we had to go and take care of it and clean it and pick the lemons and all of that. It was like, oh my God. Why me? Can't we do it later? Can't we do it when I move out? But no, you had to step up and do it. So that is really a serious problem. And he quotes a pasuk that it's hard for me to translate. And because I don't know it, because it's a complicated idea. I knew you were going to think about it.
I thought nothing.
So Mishlei Kaf Daled. So it says this, the following, listen to this. I passed by a field of a lazy man, and by the vineyard of a man lacking an understanding of heart. And behold, it was all overgrown with thorns. Nettles had covered its surface, and its stone wall was broken down. When I saw this, I set my heart to understand, and I saw and accepted discipline. A little sleep, a little slumber, a little bit of folding of the hands to recline. Then your poverty will come like a traveler, and your lacking like an armed man. Do you understand this? So he says that really the meaning is, look at what happens to someone who's lazy who has a field. What happens to his field?
Dries up.
What? What did he say?
He said dries up.
Dries up. Okay. It does dry up. It dries up, thorns grow, the walls are broken down. Right?
Yes.
That is a metaphor for us. We are the field. This is our body. This is the field. If we are not on top of it, if we behave lazily when it comes to our moral perfection, the same thing will happen to us. Thorns will grow, our walls that we put to protect ourselves are going to fall, and essentially we will be living in a life of sin. That's what Shlomo HaMelech, Solomon the king, is telling us by this verse. So that's the idea. And he says, he gives an example of following. This is what Chazal say. What does it mean that his face is covered, right? Since he did not learn Torah, since a person abandoned his field, he did not learn Torah, he sits and makes what is tameh tahor and what is tahor tameh. What needs to be impure, he says it's pure. What it needs to be pure, he says it's impure. And purzan gidran shel talmidei chachamim. And essentially he breaks down the fences of the sages. Since he was too lazy to learn Torah, he doesn't know Torah. So how does he decide what to do? He can't sit and do nothing, because you're going to have to do something. And the problem is, he makes decisions that are wrong. They're not based on the Torah. And in a sense, he's causing himself more and more harm by his decision making. Even though he wants to do the right thing, but he continuously sins. Why does he sin? Not because he's an evil person, but because he doesn't know, and he's too lazy to learn. And once he gets into that rut, what is he going to say? That he's wrong? He's not going to admit that he's wrong. The hardest, I think, one of the hardest things for people to admit to is that they are wrong. So that's what he says. He says the evil of the Ra'ad Ha'atzel, someone who is lazy, Daniel, the evil aspects that are going to come, they don't come at once. Like the field doesn't get ruined in one day. It's something that takes time, right? And it's one thing over another and another and another. He says that's how it is. It comes slowly, without him paying attention and actually feeling it, until that he actually finds himself completely immersed in evil nature. What?
You find yourself completely in a hole and you can't get out.
It's like have you ever heard of the experience? I don't know that anybody actually did this, because it would be very, very cruel to do. But the idea of if you take a frog and put her in boiling water, it jumps right out. But if you put a frog in a pot, it swims, and then when you start boiling the water, it won't jump until it's too late. Right? It's that idea that that the person is sort of boiling inside the pot very slowly. So he doesn't feel that it's a little warm until it's too late and can't get out. That's what he's saying. But chila eno machsir torach, right? That he doesn't really pay attention. He doesn't put enough of the effort to learn Torah, and because of the chisron alimud, because he didn't learn enough, what he wants to learn, he won't be able to. Won't be able to. Why? Because the word sheet that Rabbi Weiner gave him, he didn't go through. And he didn't learn the terms, and he didn't do chazara, he didn't do the pieces. So when he comes to move forward, he can't move forward, and he can't move ahead. And everything is sort of dragging him down, and it's getting worse and worse and worse. That's what tells us, that's what Ramchal is telling us. And then what happens is that he would make decisions not according to halacha, and would essentially desecrate the truth, and would go against the takanas of Chazal, go against the mitzvahs, and in the end, what will he inherit? Gehenna. In the end, he brings himself to lose the world to come. He will not have Olam Haba. Why? Because he was lazy. Right. Because he was lazy. Can he help it? Yes. So although our nature is, and there is an aspect of our nature to be lazy, the problem is we have to be aware that we have to fight. We have a battle. And we can win the battle, but we have to understand that we're in a battle. That's what we saw earlier in the Ramchal, who said that this is a battle. In order to perfect ourselves, to become morally better people, to be more complete in our habits and in our behavior, and in our speech and thought, we have to put an effort to it. And a lot of effort is required. And how do you do the effort? Just to recap, You take time every day to evaluate your behavior in the previous day and to evaluate even the negative things that you've done and also the positive things that you've done. Is there a way that you could do the positive in a better way? So yes, you helped an old lady across the street and she gave you 5 shekels. What would be the better way of helping her? Not take the 5 shekels. So that is one idea. So here we see at the end that Shlomo HaMelech recognizes that what you need is a little bit of everything. A little bit of sleep is good, a little bit of rest, okay. But don't overdo it. Don't overdo it, because your body will take control and will yank you down, pull you down. Okay. Now, what Ramchal told us was about a situation that a person doesn't know what's right and what's wrong. And the reason he doesn't know what's right and what's wrong is because he's lazy. But what if you have a person that does know right from wrong? And he's lazy. Double trouble? You think it's worse or better?
Of course it's worse, because you know the implications of doing wrong, but you're too lazy to do the right thing. So you must have an evil one, my friend, as well as a lazy one.
So you say the person that doesn't know right from wrong is in a better situation than a person who knows right from wrong.
And still doesn't do it. Of course.
Well, the lazy person should get up to learn what's right from wrong.
But let's say you have a lazy person that already knows.
It's worse.
And then there's almost a level.
What's worse, knowing or not knowing?
If someone knows, he gets punished. But
Knowing.
because he knows. If he doesn't know, he can't be.
Held
Okay,
accountable.
he's
Held
gonna be
responsible.
held a bit responsible for not trying. But the person that
He
knows
knows,
he's
he
doing
held
something
fully
wrong and still
accountable.
does it, it's worse.
You know,
Definitely worse.
You want to say it's worse. You're saying it's what? How is the same? Give me your svara. What's your argument?
Because lazy is lazy. A lazy person could easily go and learn, but a person who already knows just learned a little bit. They're still lazy. They're still achieving the same end result.
So he's focusing on the laziness. You all are focusing on the knowledge.
Yeah, if you're too lazy to put your mind to practice, then you've got a bad spirit.
Okay.
Laziness is a type of knowledge. So it has to
Laziness is a type. No, I don't know though.
or lack of knowledge.
No, laziness I think is simply a characteristic.
Yeah, it's a
Yeah, but it's a
demotivational characteristic.
characteristic that only
But
happens
David,
when you
you're
don't
assuming
know
the
that doing
opportunities
stuff
are-
a lot is good for you.
No, I don't know about that. I don't know about that. That's an interesting way of arguing, but I don't know. I'm not. I don't hear that has to be the case.
It's mechatza, mechatza.
Wait.
No, you grow up in an environment where religion seems crazy. It's not your obligation to learn Torah. You can't hold them accountable for that when most of the world is telling you, this is great stuff. Okay, so fine. When someone finally comes up to you and offers you a little bit, you reject it completely. You don't
I don't
take
know if
any
we're
time
talking
to...
about someone who just doesn't have that capacity.
Well, I want to hear 2 more people. Go ahead.
I think it's definitely the person that doesn't know anything, because
Definitely is what? Worse or better?
worse.
It's worse that you don't know anything and you don't do, as opposed to a person who knows and doesn't do.
Yeah, I would say the first one is worse.
Okay.
Because, you don't, it's not, the expression, ignorance is bliss does not apply to, Judaism. You have to have that, it's really important to know. So, I don't know, it's hard for me to get my point across, but I definitely think just intuitively, it makes sense that the first one is,
Okay.
I agree with him when he said that they're the same.
Him. Introduce yourself, him.
David.
I agree with David. I think that they both have a certain amount of potential to do what they should do on their level. So each of them have the
Okay.
choice or the will
Okay.
to do good.
Good.
Or stay bad. So
Okay.
that's what-
Isaac and then Teddy.
I don't know, to illustrate by way of an example, if someone hears a robbery and they know, but they don't do anything, that's definitely far worse than someone who has slept through the whole thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
When you know something, you take on an obligation or responsibility to do
Oh.
something. Otherwise, you're a part of the same. You're
Examples
aiding and
of
abetting.
surely.
Okay. Well, let's say he's making a good point. Teddy, do you want to? Very good, Isaac.
I think when somebody's lazy, I think it's sort of a habitual thing. It's very hard to get out of it. It's sort of motivate yourself to sort of get out of the rut. And so it's very difficult for that person to do anything. like even if like he wants to learn, I guess. And also in a situation where the person knows it's an action that he doesn't do instead of an action that he does do, he's also sort of just being lazy in that situation. But because he knows and he's already taken the initiative, he knows that like he's had the.
But it doesn't have to be. But it doesn't have to be somebody. I'll give you. I'll change it a little bit to say that it's not somebody who had a motivation and lost it. It's just somebody grew up in a household where they taught him all these things. He just sort of absorbed it because of his environment, not because he ever thought about it. So he knows not to break Shabbos. He knows not to eat pig. I don't want to say pork. I say pig because nobody wants to eat pig. What?
Does he know why?
What's the difference? What's the difference if you know why or not? The Ramchal is.
The person who's lazy and doesn't know, they don't understand that they were created by a God, and that God gave him a set of rules to live by. The person who understands the rules understands that there's a creator of him.
Okay.
And it's like spitting in his face if he knows it and doesn't do it.
You can put a meaning behind the ritual. You just do it ritualistically.
But you can have some. I could see a guy who says, "Yeah, I believe in God. He gave the Torah. The whole thing. I know of it. I just don't want to get up. It's not because I don't believe. It's not because I don't know. It's not because I don't. I don't feel like it. It's what?
That's slapping God in the face.
It's slapping him in the face.
Extra avera. Extra punished.
Okay.
Like literally, like that's.
So for you,
that is also against Pesach and Chayav Misa.
Wow.
I think it's the same.
You say it's the same.
Because both have the capability to learn. What does it matter who knows and who doesn't know? They both have the capability to learn.
Someone learns, they become lazy and they haven't got the impetus to do it. They're much worse than the person who doesn't know.
The more you guys talk, Daniel, I'll give you the floor in a second. The more people are talking, the more I think Tuvia he's on the money.
Someone who knows about keeping Shabbat and doesn't keep it, and he knows about it, he's punished the worst than someone that doesn't know about it and doesn't keep
Not
it.
true,
It's
because
the same thing as what you're saying.
Okay, Yoni?
there still has to be like an education factor, like just knowing about Shabbat, but there has to be like growing up with education that makes him feel spiritually there, not just like that he logically has to do it.
But let's say he's got all that. He's just lazy. Ramchal is giving us the case that the guy is just lazy.
And we will listen.
Okay, let's keep going. Let's go weiter, and then we'll see how we learn. You learned it today, right? What's the sign, the hand sign for weiter? What's the sign for weiter with your hand? Keep going. Weiter. Says the Ramchal. So a person who knows his duty and nit'amet etzlo. Nit'amet etzlo means that it was established for him as true. That is, he believes, he knows that he has what he should do in order to save his soul. That's what he says. So we are dealing with a case of a person who knows that keeping the mitzvahs, right, both prohibitive and prescriptive, are for his own benefit. It is to save his own soul, and he knows this, he believes it, he knows it. There's no question. And he understands that he says, that it is a duty upon him from his creator. It's like as if you read this already. And he says, nevertheless, it's simply heaviness and laziness that is pulling him down. It's not an issue of belief. Yoni, it's not an issue of not spiritual. It's not an issue of not knowing the why. It's not the issue of knowing what to do. The guy knows, believes everything. He is just lazy. That is something that we have to be very, very careful of. It's something that can affect each one of us. So he says, you know what? I'll eat first. I'll sleep a little. I already took off my clothes. Well, I'm going to put them back on. Forget it. He says they give all these excuses. That you see the mouth of the lazy people are full of excuses. And essentially what happens, the Torah is left on the corner. The mitzvahs, the work of the mitzvahs is mevutal. It is canceled. And the person leaves his creator. He's using excuses. He's not saying, why don't you go to synagogue in the morning? He's not saying, why don't you go to minyan in the morning? He's not saying because I don't believe in God, no. I just went out too late last night, and we went out. We had a good time, Ben Yehuda, and I'm just too tired. I'll just sleep.
No.
Right? Say, God, you and I will work it out later. That's why there's Yom Kippur. Right? That's what he's saying. That we have an aspect of us that we know, we believe in God, we know that He commanded us to live in a certain way, that it is for our benefit, but we come up with excuses. We have excuses. I just really need a nap. In the afternoon, I eat lunch. I've been in Seder from 9 a.m. till, 1 o'clock. I go to sleep at 2 o'clock. And, if I wake up, I wake up at 3. If I don't, I don't. I need my beauty sleep. Right? Right?
Mm-hmm.
That is a part of the excuses. And he says that this is what the Yetzer does. Our evil inclination uses that aspect of our personality to weigh us down. And so he says you have to be very aware of what's happening. So he gave us 2 categories. Now he's giving us the 3rd category of lazy. He says sometimes when you speak to a lazy person, he will quote you from the Gemara. He will quote you from scriptures. He will give you arguments that are based on intellectual. Why? So that you leave him alone and let him live his life the way he wants. And why does he want to do that? Because he's lazy. Because if you tell him you have 613 mitzvahs to follow, what would he say? I don't have time for this. I really don't have time for this. I'm supposed to pray how many times a day? 3 times? I have to work for a living. I don't know how you people do it. They will give you and I don't know if you've met people like that, but I thank God for my work, I meet people like that all the time. That they give me all sorts of argument why they should not. One person I said to him, look, Rabbi, he said to me, look, Rabbi, it's not that I don't believe in the Torah and I don't believe in God, but I'm just too weak to resist the temptations of my evil inclination. I'm just too weak. I said to him, are you kidding me? Like, this is the argument you're going to go with? I am just too weak? So then he thought about it, and then he said, you know what? You're right. I'm not too weak. I just don't want to do it. I said, okay. Now you gave me the truth. You just don't want to do it. It's fine. I'm not faulting you, but at least now you know what the issue is. Don't live with excuses. That's what he's saying, that because somebody is lazy, they don't want to do it. Even though they understand, they believe that it's good for them, they know that this is for their own benefit, they're just too lazy to change their life. Because their life is comfortable and they're fine with the way they are. And they don't want to change it. There are people who don't like change because they're lazy. Change involves doing something. And they don't want to do it. Okay. He says he doesn't recognize, this is for you, Teddy, he doesn't recognize that all his arguments and excuses are coming from his intellect. Because the source is from his laziness. And as his laziness gets stronger, his mind becomes tilted according to that characteristic. We saw that somewhere else, if you remember. So he says, this is something that we have to be very, very, very careful. So then, what's the principle? How do we avoid getting into this mess? So he says, klalo shel davar, the general principle is this. חיזוק גדול צריך האדם להתחזק ולהתגבר בזריזות לעשות מצוות. That a person has to really take himself in his hands, right? Has to do the mitzvahs quickly. He has to gather strength. He has to overcome the laziness the natural laziness that he has, and to perform the mitzvahs. By performing mitzvahs quickly, with a lot of energy, you are essentially breaking down the laziness. Right? You wake up in the morning, the alarm goes off, and what do? You hit the snooze for 10 minutes. Right? Don't hit the snooze. Get up. What?
I didn't say anything.
You just, Rabbi, well, you don't know. You don't know.
I'm sure you do know.
So I wake up every day at 5 a.m. I jump out of bed like a tiger.
He goes back to sleep for those
No. No, I get ready. I'm in Minyan at 5:30. I come home. I eat. I drink. I eat a little bit. Get on the bus. I learn Gemara until I get to Yerushalayim.
What time you go to bed?
What time do I go to bed? Like yesterday I went 11, sometimes 11, 12, 10:30. 5.
Isn't it not healthy to get that little sleep?
It's all relative.
It is all right. Didn't David and Melech only sleep for like half an hour?
Listen. If you feel that your body needs it, that's fine. The point that I was trying to make is don't hit the snooze button, not wake up at 5. Right? That's the only point I'm trying to make.
As long as we're clear on that.
Yeah. If you want to sleep, sleep at 7, 7:30, and you get up and you are ready to perform your mitzvahs, then that's what he's talking about. When you have a mitzvah of coming to shir, then you go, you get excited. The quickness is something that you have the ability, your will can move your body. Questions? Yes?
If like you feel like your body is conditioned to like need this snooze, like that alert before hitting up, is that like okay? Like to have like that 10 minutes?
I just gave an example. I'm just giving an example. I'm not saying that but I think the idea is that our body has a tendency to say, why do you have to do it now? I mean, I should tell you, when I was in college, my basic rule was, why do it now if I can do it tomorrow? And I waited till the last minute. And okay, so, I was done. I got my PhD and everything, but that was sort of but in mitzvahs, you can't do that way. It doesn't work. Why do the mitzvah now? We can just do it later. That's what the body is trying to be mevatel, your mitzvah. To remove an opportunity that you have to perfect yourself, to make you a better person. Yeah, it's easier not to do it. That's why you need to man up. Yeah.
For the first time, the second I woke up, I just went, I'm out. I had to do it. I just had to try it. And once I was up and on my feet, I was awake like never before. You're there. Like if you wait for 10 minutes, 5 minutes, anything, it's like a struggle. The whole
That's right.
process is a struggle.
That's right. So I just wanna recap. I just want to recap because we finished chapter 6 today, so we'll start chapter 7. Moving right along, we should finish this whole book by the Mashiach comes. Because as soon as we're done, we have to start it again because we probably missed a few things. So he talked about 3 types of people that are suffering from laziness, right? The first type was a person who, because of his laziness, didn't learn any Torah. And therefore, he makes decisions that are against the Torah, which are actually harming him. And really, this person is going to cause much harm to himself. And the reason that he's in this situation, it has to do with his laziness. If he just buttoned down and learned, came to yeshiva, let's say for, a month, 2 months, 3 months, then he would know what to do, what not to do. The second category is a person who knows, he believes, but simply has no strength to do. He's just too lazy. And that person is in a much worse situation than the first person, because I think that the Ramchal is putting them in order of what's worse. And the third, which is the worst case, is the person who actually didn't learn, or if he learned, he is sure that he is right. And that his mind, his intellect uses all the evidence to prove why he should not do the mitzvahs, why he should not follow what the rabbis say, why he should not live a Jewish life. And he says that person is much, much worse. And the only way to deal with it is through performing the mitzvahs b'zrizut, quickly. That is when you have a mitzvah, you go do it. And with that, let us move from one mitzvah of learning Torah to davening mincha. Let's do it quickly, and may we all succeed in everything that we do.